just so small.
Where it just jettisoned.
Hey there, this is the Small Stuff Podcast. My name is Kyle Roebuck. This is the intro. Let's start the show. Hi, how are you?
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm genuinely started to panic a little bit because I know we talked about it and we've talked about it like twice, 3 times now. Rabiah, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Good. Yeah. I was like, wait. It's Rabiah, right? Rabiah? Or am I thinking about this too hard?
I was worried. We talked about a lot, so I was worried about which thing.
Rabiah Coon.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Just call me Rabbi. Yeah.
Rabiah. Wait, really? Do people call you Rabbi?
Starbucks.
Oh, that's pretty sick. I mean, that would be my go-to nickname.
I mean, it's good because I wrote part of a bit about it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. But Rabiah Coon, you are well, why don't you tell everybody where you are, what you do, who you are? Real vague questions we like to ask here.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I have like an hour and a half prepared, so we're good.
Okay.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I'm Rabiah. I live in London by way of Southern California. I grew up in Southern California and went to college in San Diego and spent most of my time there. And I've also lived in New York and Dallas. And my career's taken me a lot of places, like as far as physical locations, but also to a lot of different positions. So I just started a job as a marketing manager at the company I've been at for 5 years. But prior to that, I was a project manager in like doing IT projects, websites and stuff. And it's just been a cool opportunity to kind of switch my career up a little bit, I'd say mid-career and for the second time. And then I also do stand-up comedy on the side. That's what I do a lot of evenings. And I have a podcast. And then otherwise, I like to do charity work and volunteer. That's really important to me. So, yeah.
So, what led you into what you do professionally?
Yeah, I mean, a long time ago, like 20 years ago, when I got out of school, I realized I didn't want to be a lawyer, and that's what I thought I was on track to do. And so I ended up working in a call center, just answering phones overnight, and then during the day working in HR in the housing and dining at UC San Diego, because I worked in the cafeteria my whole time in school. And I just got offered a chance to work in the office side of things, which was cool because I learned a lot there. Actually, I did a lot of like training and helped with the training programs. And I got also to see some of the programs that HR were doing, like English as a second language programs for some of the adult staff and stuff. So it was really formative, and I didn't realize it at the time. And then in the call center job, though, I just started working my way up, and I ended up going from customer care to operations because I was always annoying them with ideas of how to improve things. So they just let me kind of work on projects. And then I moved into warehouse management. And that's where I really started to become like a product owner in a way. I wasn't of that stuff, but I learned, again, documentation, business analyst, all that kind of stuff. Did a lot of training. So I called on my previous thing for that. And then I moved to New York to become like a director of operations, which was quite an inflated title. But I did that, and that company that job didn't work out. After 4 months, I was unemployed for the first time since I was like probably 15. And I was about 30 years old then. So that was awful. But then I ended up going into product management. I started working on mobile apps and a website for a ground transportation company. And that was a big pivot, a big shift. And then I ended up doing that at Fossil, the watches and bags company, which I'm sure they like to be described that way, but whatever. And I don't really care. That didn't work out well. But then I came to my company that I'm at. So I was working with these people at Fossil who are our IT implementers, and I fit in with them a lot better than I fit in with the people at Fossil. And so I ended up not planning to, but I left Fossil and I ended up at 3Share, where I'm at now. And about well, it's almost 2 years ago. They asked if I'd like the opportunity. Actually, almost 3 years ago, they asked if I'd like the opportunity to live in the UK and do what I'm doing, which was IT project manager, but in the UK. And I said yes, because I didn't have a partner of any sort or family or kids I had to look after or something, to leave behind. Just my family, my mom and sister and her kids and friends. And so I came here, and then a pandemic happened. But meanwhile, I started a podcast, and then I was just given the opportunity to move into marketing a couple months ago. And it's been crazy because, long story, not really short, probably. I tried to be, but I've been working for a while.
Yeah.
So you end up with a long story, but it's a series of opportunities presented to me and me saying yes to them, and me working really hard, and then another opportunity. I mean, that's really what it comes down to for me, I think. And this chance I'm taking now, for me, I mean, I'm still shocked that I'm doing it, but every day I feel a little bit more certain that I'm the person to do the job. I don't think my CEO will listen to this, but if he does, then he already knows. I mean, I've talked to him about being unsure of myself and stuff, but it's pretty cool. So
what exactly were you moved there to do?
Project
and honestly,
management.
just heads up, you very well may explain something and it goes right over my head, and I ask a question that you've answered already in a way.
Okay.
So just prepare for that, because I'm not the brightest.
I don't mind. No, I don't think that's true. I think that you work in a different industry than me. So, and I've had to explain this to my mom. I think I'm one of those people who has a career where it's like, what is my kid doing?
Yeah.
So when I worked at Fossil, it was easy, although I'm sure some people thought I was working in a retail store selling bags, but that's fine. But yeah, I mean, so I've been a project manager for about five years now, up until very recently. And really what that job is, it's the person on the project that works with the client or the business owner, whatever it is. It could be an external client or internally, to get their requirements and to get like, what do you need? What are we trying to do? What's our objective? And then who makes sure that the developers on the team have the information they need to implement that, and make sure that the management understands the status of all of it. And then if there's any blockers or something like in the way, you remove those, and you work and you just coordinate all the meetings, and you annoy people, and you make sure that everyone's status is updated. And yeah, it's an exciting job in a way, because you get to see kind of all the parts moving, and you get to try to like, oh, I see that's potentially an issue.
Yeah.
Or I see an opportunity to improve something. And it's like you're always running your own little kind of, not business, but your own little like branch of it for a little while you're on a project. So I was a project manager, basically.
You're like a conductor, like a orchestra. Yeah. That's what makes sense in my head.
Yeah.
Okay. So you began doing stand-up after the move to London, right? Or no?
Actually, a year before.
Okay.
Yeah, a year. So I've been doing stand-up for about 2.5 years now, a little bit more, I guess. So I've gotten over 200 gigs, either online or in person, under my belt. And I actually have to go back to my spreadsheet and start tracking a little bit better. But, I'm tracking my minutes, just because as a project manager, I have those tendencies in my personal life as well. But I started when I was living in San Diego, and did it for almost a year before I moved here. And then we had the pandemic, but I still did it online, which some people chose not to, and some people chose to. I chose to do it online and keep going.
So, you were doing the Zoom like shows. Yeah. How did that work exactly? I never saw or like participated in anything with those. As far as like, we're just watching somebody do it. To be honest, I didn't hear great things, but I'm curious to hear from you as someone who like actually did it.
Well, it did a couple things that were, there were negatives to it, but I think there are negatives to performing anyway. I mean, really. And then there are negatives to performing in rooms with, for me, if it's all, if it's like 50 men who don't find me attractive, or 50 who do find me attractive, there are negatives to both of those rooms too. Yeah. Right. So, but with the online, what was okay, so from the pure performance aspect, a lot of what you do as a comedian is you feed off the audience, and there's a whole energy component. I mean, if you are feeling bad, they're going to pretty much see it in your body language and stuff, and if you're feeling good, they're going to see that, whatever. And people react to that, and people also react to what you're saying, basically through laughter. At least you hope through laughter. So now it's as devastating to bomb online as in person, honestly. But at least online, you can turn your camera off.
I was going to say, you can just close your laptop and run away.
Yeah, but it feels nasty. It feels the same. And so,
yeah.
As a performer, though, I mean, that was a little hard not getting that feedback. You're not sure what worked sometimes. If people don't have their cameras on, you couldn't figure that out either. So what it did for me as a performer is built up some resilience, because now, not a perfect amount of resilience, because I still feel like garbage after some gigs now, but it built up this resilience to like just be able to say my stuff with confidence as though it's working, whether it was or not. Because when you're like, the shows that were a little better were on Zoom or something where you were seeing people. Some of them were just streamed straight to YouTube or whatever, and you had no interaction with audience at all. That was really weird, because you had to really just keep your energy up, and it was your responsibility. It really let me meet a lot of people. I think that's the best part is, man, I have some friends now that I would have never met, some amazing people. Some have been on my podcast, some I'll meet in person. I'm meeting a lady in a couple weeks who lives in Paris, and she's going to be in London, and she's like, hey, is anyone around? I'm doing a couple gigs. And it's like, yeah, and then when I go there, I'll be able to see her there too. But I'm really excited to meet her because she seems awesome. I met a friend who's American. She's from Alaska. Now check this out, dude. She's from Alaska, but her and her husband and her kid live in Germany. But she was here for some gigs, and she actually ended up staying with me. For a night, which was kind of, we were both like, oh, this is a bad idea. We don't know. But ends up, she was awesome. And it's like another friend. And so I've met some cool connections that way. And I think that was the most special part. And then also giving me something to do.
Yeah.
So I get why people didn't do it. But for me, like, I got to practice for another year.
Right.
So I feel like I got a little better, met some people. Yeah, I had its negatives. But the positives were there more, because also the commute time. I mean, you don't, when you do a gig, like if I do gigs here, say the gig's supposed to start at 8, right? So I usually have to be there by 7:45. So I usually have to leave here by about 6:45, just depending on where it is. Everything's about an hour away in London. It seems like that's what everyone says, and it's pretty much true. And then if I stay for the whole thing, which I tend to, some people like don't. I like to support all the other acts. Then I probably won't get home until like 11:30. So it's like, a 5-hour night for 5 minutes on stage. And when I did Zoom, it would just be like, a 2.5-hour night. And I spent maybe 5 minutes getting ready before or something,
So you're going up doing, are you still doing 5-minute sets now?
5, 10. Depends. Wow. I got 15. I get 20 next week, or 20 next week on one. That's just dope. The people are so nice and awesome and giving you all this room. But usually it's like 5. And then there's these bringers. So you have to bring someone in order to perform, which is really hard if you don't have a lot of friends. Plus, we're still in a pandemic, so not everyone's going out.
Yeah.
And I respect that.
Yeah.
Not everyone's sitting in a room with like 25 people,
Yeah.
in some basement. I don't even want to do it sometimes. But yeah, so it's usually about 5 to 10, which is fine. I mean, you know what? That's how it is. I mean, and you sometimes work just as hard on your 5 as you do on your 10.
I was going to say, I feel like I would have a harder time writing a 5-minute set than I would writing a longer, like 20-minute set. Cause I feel like something, and obviously I'm coming from a place with no experience. But knowing how I typically and not that I've done comedy or anything, but when I'm trying to make people laugh, the way I approach it is I tell a story. Like I tell a whole like long story that will usually take 10, 15, and I could embellish it a little bit, I think. And I feel like something like that's easier for me to do rather than like 5 minutes seems like it would be hard to like stick to.
5 minutes makes you really work on the craft. It makes you really work on the writing because, and I'm long-winded too. And I think it's not, I haven't hidden that from anyone at this point, but, and even then I think my economy of words is greater than it would have been, say 2 years ago,
Mhm.
even for this kind of thing, right? But it fascinates me, and the part I really like is the challenge of taking this idea, expanding on it, blowing it up, and then bringing it back down and condensing it.
Mhm.
That's the beauty of it, is like
Yeah.
you take this story, and I have this one story and I can tell it really long, or I can just get to the punchline. And either way I get the laughs, but it's like, what room do I have?
Mhm.
You know? And so, yeah, I can see you having like your 15-minute story, but when you need to get to the point and you figure out how to do that, and you figure out to evoke all that emotion and everything into a couple, like maybe a minute, it's kind of this really cool thing.
Yeah.
But so why is a 5-minute set harder now? Because I have more to say. But when I first did it, having 5 minutes was hard. And having 5 funny minutes, because you can talk for 5 minutes, but are you going to get, people do different things. Like you should get 6 laughs a minute, whatever. And some people agree and some people
That's
disagree with
crazy. That seems like a
But-
lot.
Yeah. But if you think about it, and when you watch comedy next time, see what they're doing, and maybe you'll have someone like a pro and they won't be getting that, but then they'll have these long sections where they will have that, but then
Mhm.
there's more patience. They have more time to do a setup because everyone knows who they are. So everyone's waiting. When you're brand new, you don't have time for that. They need to like you. They need to be willing to laugh because they know you want the laughs, and you need to deliver that. And so, but now I have enough material where if I can get 7 or 8, I feel much better than if I can get 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
5's good. 5 in a good room. Amazing.
I never thought about how the different, like, I mean, it makes complete sense. I just never thought about it, how
yeah,
the
for
different
sure.
times would affect the way you tell the story and stuff, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah.
Bit of a trivial question, but I am curious. I'll ask you, one, who's your favorite comedian right now who is like mainstream? Like, I'm going to say mainstream, like if you watch comedy, you'll know who this person is. But like also, who's your favorite who might not be very well known? And when I say mainstream and popular, I'm talking like no further out than like Bert Kreischer. Like he's pretty mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like maybe like not everybody knows Anthony Jeselnik's name, or
Right.
you know what I mean? So something like
Right.
that is, and then someone more obscure that I could check out.
So I guess the one I like that's actively doing comedy right now, because I could name people who are still alive, who are still present, but I like their comedy from before. So I guess it's a draw between Hannah Gadsby and Mark Maron, but I've seen Maron a lot more.
I've heard Mark Maron's name. I think I've seen him before.
Yeah. So I'll go with Maron just because I've seen more of him, but I do have tickets to see Gadsby like next year. So Maron has been doing this forever. He has stories that go way back. He does a podcast, What the Fuck with Mark Maron, WTF with Mark Maron. And his stand-up, I mean, he has a few specials on Netflix. He'll probably do another one, I imagine, because I know he's touring now. I like that he's able to tell the stories.
Yeah.
Okay. He's able to do that and say kind of outrageous things, but he's also very intelligent, and I appreciate that. And there's other people who do the same thing, but he's someone who I really connect with. He's also someone who he'll push the line, but in a way that I like, in a way that I'm comfortable with, and in a way that I want to do it too. And so, I don't know. He's really cool.
Yeah,
he's really cool.
I've seen him on Tom Segura's podcast. That's where I've seen him before.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where I knew who you were talking about, but I was just making sure. I looked him up on my phone, and yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
Like, I don't watch that much comedy, to be honest, and that surprises people, but it's kind of a thing for me. It's like I'm doing it. So for me, part of the reason I don't watch a lot is, I mean, other than time, and I do watch specials now more, but when I'm trying to do it, I don't want to be influenced by people in a way where I would copy them or something. I do worry about stuff like that.
Right.
And I did my own 30 minutes. recently there was this whole Fringe festival season here, and I did it at Camden Fringe. I live in Camden in London, and then I did Brighton Fringe. And the idea with the Fringe festivals, it's like you are working up to an hour show, and I did a half hour, and I hit almost 40 minutes with it one time. And I liked having the longer format because I can talk about things that I can't talk about in a 5-minute set. So one thing, like, a problem with a 5-minute set, I can't do some of my material in that because I need to bum people out before I can bring them back. And I would only have time to bum them out.
Okay.
for a particular subject, which I can talk about. But anyway, it's one particular subject. And so I did watch some specials to get an idea, and I listened to Mike Birbiglia's podcast. He's great. I would say I love his comedy. I don't know his comedy very well, but I love listening to his podcast because it's called Working It Out, and they're working out their material. And talking about comedy and the craft of stuff, but also working out some bits. And it's cool to hear him say something. I'm like, that's not funny, dude. But he's entertained by it. And that's the same thing I do. Like, I'll say something I think is funny. No one else will. And then to hear how it'll evolve. Because then it evolves. And then when you know it's not funny, then you know how you can make it funny. Or you figure it out, or you just drop it. You don't say it anymore. So anyway, Mark Maron, but there's other people. And then that's not well known. I get to interact with super talented people all the time in doing comedy and doing the open mic circuits and stuff. And I made some friends in California, and then I have friends here. And so I guess just trying to think of someone who I'm particularly excited about now is a trickier question, just because I want to name people I know, but also I haven't seen some people in a while. But there's a friend, and I've mentioned him before on other podcasts, but it's my friend Connor Costello. He's out in San Diego, and he does one-liners. And I could name like 5 other people, but I'll just name him. And we were in the same class together. He already had some experience doing comedy, but I took a course to start out, and you don't have to, but that's what I chose to do. And he works hard at it, and he's always got this positive attitude. Like, he's really nice because a lot of people aren't, and he just is. And he just says these great one-liners and almost dad jokes, but then edgier stuff too. And then he was doing other things, but I just respect that he keeps at it. But I also think he's very funny. So he's in San Diego, California.
Yeah, I do a lot of dad joking myself. My wife, oh God, what did she say? Okay, we were walking, driving down the road, and she said something about like a bittersweet touch. Like, she misspoke and said bittersweet touch, and that just started turning in my head because I was picking on her for saying it. And I was like, what the hell what would a bittersweet touch be? And I'm just like, bittersweet touch, getting punched in the dick by your crush.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a bittersweet touch, right? Like, I thought it was hilarious. I was dying. Like, I'm driving.
I like that.
And I'm dying. Yeah. You can have it. There you go. It's free. Figure out a way to work that in.
No. But I think it is funny because you want them in that vicinity, but not by punching.
Right. You. Yeah. That's a bittersweet touch. Look, hey, she touched me, but, not in a great way. Anyway, that's what most of my shit is dad jokes trying to make my wife laugh.
Yeah.
She usually just looks at me like she knows it's funny, but she's not gonna laugh on purpose. And I know that she does that on purpose.
Well, there are audience members who do that to you too, and you're just like,
bro, just laugh, man. Like, chill out.
Give me a break.
It's funny. If it's funny, it's funny. Who cares if I made a joke about something really dark? I was gonna name something, but I was worried I was gonna say something a little too out there. How's it different going from San Diego to London? Because, I mean, I'm assuming most of a stand-up act is drawing from reading the room, realizing who's in the room, and doing material based on the society and culture that's around you.
Yeah.
So was that a bit of a shock, like moving from San Diego to London and still trying to do stand-up in London?
Well, what was hard about it was I made all these assumptions about what I needed to say and what I needed to do. And these assumptions about
you just walking up, hello, love. How are you guys doing tonight?
Yeah. Well, I have a bit. See, this is the problem with the comics who always go into our bits. But I do have a bit where I talk about that I'm American, but I tried to fit in when I moved by speaking in a British accent. But I found out the only thing I could say was, "Hello, governor." And you guys don't talk like that here. And people like that joke. And it's good because, it's good because people laugh. So I know it's good. But I don't need to explain my joke. I mean, it's obvious what that is. But yeah, the thing I did, and I had a knowledge of what comedians do to a point. Like, so for example, I'd seen Ricky Gervais quite a bit in the States. And in LA, and I was crazy. I was driving from San Diego to LA to see him, but I went to one of his warm-up shows. And so I saw what he did. He like did his set, his British set, right? And then by the time I saw the one that he was final, that was in the big room, he had taken some phrases and turned them into the American sayings. So he'd used the warm-up sets, a couple of them, to figure out what worked and what didn't in America. And I didn't do that. I just decided I was going to skip and just know what worked here. So I wrote a set for England, just about the differences. I didn't even live here for a month, but I knew all the differences. You know, it was just kind of, I was nervous. And so I made some decisions. So I was here about a month because I was only here for 2 months before the pandemic started, before lockdown happened. But the first, say, 2 or 3 weeks, I struggled. I mean, I was like, oh man, I'm not funny. This isn't going well. It was pretty horrible. And I went on a trip. My company took us all to Mexico. So I went on that trip. And on the way back, I had this long flight to really, I couldn't sleep. So I had to think. And I realized something. I wasn't being authentic. I wasn't, and even being authentic as a comic means you have some level of bullshit that you're doing and you have a character. And I'm not exactly, I'm a little bit more angsty off stage for sure. And me as a person, but I wasn't doing my material. And so I said, oh, I'm going to do my material. When I get back this week, that's what I'm going to do. And I did. And you know what? It worked better. Yeah. And then there are words I found out don't work. So someone would be like, oh, I know this from American television, but actually we call it this. So it'd be better if you said this.
Like what?
Oh, okay. So, well, this is not really in my standard set, but like I talk about getting a letter in a sport. Like I lettered in track or something. Yeah. They don't do that. Right. So then I could say, oh, I got recognized or so, at least something that works, because they don't get a letter. But like baseball and t-ball, they would say rounders. They know what baseball is, but t-ball, they don't know t-ball, right?
Rounders.
And I don't know. And,
I mean, I get it, but
right. But there's a couple things where it was just like, oh, I know what you're saying because I have this knowledge, this pop culture knowledge, but not everyone will know. And that's helpful when people will let you know about that. That's really nice. And because some of the things that are funny is the nuance of language, right? And so when you're not talking the same language, but what I didn't have to do was change my entire set and personality to fit in. And I thought I did. But I think that's true. I mean, if you want a life lesson in anywhere, and I think we've talked, I mean, you're on my podcast coming up and I think when you're not being authentic and not being true to yourself, you're not going to do as well in anything. Right. It doesn't matter if it's comedy or not. So the differences are really, if you ask that, to answer that actual question you had, I think that, well, I've done a lot in London, and I know if I go outside of London, it's a bit different. What I find, at least in San Diego, is people always think what they're saying is more important than what's going on the stage. It doesn't matter if it's comedy or music or whatever. I'd say in London, they're a little bit quieter when you're performing. But the comedy, I mean, there's the archetypes are there. So there's like the bros, right?
Right.
And then there's like the women who are clearly using certain parts of their femininity, I guess, or whatever, and their ability to talk about dicks for an entire set to be alluring to a certain demographic. Right. And that's fine. That's not but I'm just not attracted enough to do that, to be honest with you. Like, so, and I know that I'm not saying, I don't think I'm particularly unattractive, but I don't have that look, and I have to know that, it's just kind of like, that's it. And so, and then there's like the, kind of angry person. Then there's like the total character act. I have this one friend who's just amazing. She's like the funniest like character act. And then there's a couple women I know who do these characters, and it's amazing to me. Like one does this ditzy character that is pretty good, and then one does this kind of really like low energy person, but they don't talk like that outside of the stage, but they're awesome. And so there's a little bit more of that than I've seen. Like the whole clowning thing, so to speak, is like bigger here. And then there's a lot of interesting talk around neurodiversity, and there's like some autistic comics and stuff who just openly talk about it. In the US, I was hearing just people make fun of autistic people, which I found gross. I just found it really gross.
Yeah.
Oh, my sibling's autistic, so I can make fun of autistic people. Well, no. Okay. But is that, and you can go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you can.
You're kind of you're kind of a dick. So
yeah.
That's kind of gross. So anyway, here I just like how there's like these kind of supportive like micro communities within comedy. And I've just made a lot of friends that are just very different than in the US. In the US, it was very much the same person all the time. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
no, it did. Yeah. I'm curious, springboarding off of something you said. Dave Chappelle's taking a shit ton of fire right now. Have you seen that
like
special? 28
million. I don't want to give him the rating, honestly. Okay. Not that it matters. He got paid $23 million. It is really hard for me to have any level of empathy for him. And he knew what he was saying.
Oh,
just
I'm
like
not.
Ricky Gervais knows.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any.
Did you watch it yet?
Yeah, I have. I don't feel bad for him. I saw all of like every special he did on Netflix, and
I have 2 up till now.
This one, I think, if you haven't watched it, you should, especially if you already have an opinion about it.
I will. I just haven't. Honestly, I've been busy.
Yeah,
I
know it's one of those things. It's a lot of people are making him out to be a lot like way worse than he is. Like it's very, very abundantly, obviously clear he is fucking with everybody. Like it's a joke. It's all a joke. Like, and he even says he's like, I mean, no harm. Like at the end, he gets really real. You should watch it. It's good.
But I just think what's funny is, what has he done? He's gotten people who would have never watched to watch it, and there's a conversation about him. So he's actually won.
He's a genius,
and he's not canceled. And I'm so tired of the cancel culture. Who's complaining about it? The people actually complaining about it are the ones who want to cancel the people who are talking. They want to cancel people want to cancel the opposition. There's an irony to the whole thing, right? Where, they're canceling everyone. Well, who? So do you think Dave Chappelle is hoping that this 42-year-old cis white woman is loving his special? No.
He doesn't care.
I am the problem to him, if anything.
Yeah.
I am one of the problems, right? Because I'm this woke white person who stands up for gay people and didn't stand up for anyone else soon enough. So if anything, he actually would not want me watching his special, nor does he care if I like it. But we're in this thing.
I wasn't even talking about that message.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the bottom line. And so, I mean, I just am what I'm tired of personally is the people telling people to shut up because they're being told to shut up.
Yeah.
You shut up. No, you shut up. No, you shut up. No, you shut up. Well, okay. And who's been helped? Has one trans person's life been saved now? Has one black person not been incarcerated unfairly? Do we have to have one of those things not happen for the other thing to happen? I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like there's all this outrage, and it's the same outrage that we had with Trump, same outrage that we've had before. None of it's doing anything to actually help people. Which of these people has volunteered with an organization in their community to help someone or donated money or anything? No, they're all just like rage posting and it's on both sides.
Yeah.
It's on both of them. And then you know what? I guarantee the people who are standing up for Chappelle now, they're going to be hard pressed when they need to stand up for Ricky Gervais because he goes off on trans people too. And because he feels like he's marginalized because he's a 60-year-old heterosexual white man. And that's also not wanted anymore. And so he says the same damn thing as Chappelle, but just not about black people. He says it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder where all the outrage is going to be with him.
See, that's the thing. Like, I'm not on the. I don't know if you picked up on it. When I watch those specials, I never watched them and went, "Wow, he really hates like gay people, trans people." Like, I watched them going, "He's fucking around." Like, he's telling a joke.
He does though. Now that's the thing. He said he does.
That's the thing. No. Are you talking about in this latest special?
Well, my understanding is he actually says
he does. He says it, but it is clear. That's what I'm saying. People are taking quotes from this thing, and they're taking them out of context. Like, yes, he says he's setting up a joke or something. He's like blah 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 because I hate trans people, and goes on like that. Like, it's sarcasm. Like, never. And maybe you'll pick up on something different, but
I'll see it. But like, I'm in all these like shitty comedian groups on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And they just are, because people like posted today just to like make everyone mad. Like, everyone's just posting just to make people mad, so they get a reaction, so then they feel like they have some purpose in their life, I guess. I don't really know, because they're all not doing anything. And no one knows who any of these people are, right? But what people seem to be defending now is not what you're talking about then, because people are defending his transphobia.
Right. Which I would argue, again, and you'd have to watch it to understand, but I would argue with everything I have, he's not transphobic at all.
He might not be, but the thing is, he's not bothered to change the narrative either. And so, but it's benefiting him. I mean, this is business, and I think that's what people don't get too. And like, people are like, oh, the Netflix people walked out. Well, you know what? Because they're working somewhere and they're hurt right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody who doesn't work for Netflix, and a lot of people who don't work in a corporation either, are like criticizing the Netflix people. But it's like, I worked for proflowers.com in 2002 to 2010 ish.
Mm-hmm.
Rush Limbaugh was one of the biggest revenue generators for them. The CEO was like hung out with him.
Mm-hmm.
Rush Limbaugh was a piece of shit. God rest his soul, because he needs someone to watch him, because he just was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in my opinion, because he said some nasty things about people and he hurt a lot of people. We were hurt by it because we knew we had the revenue coming in from him, and we knew our CEO was like pals with him. So there's nothing we could do. The next CEO that came in got rid of him and said, I know this isn't good for our company and the people who work here. He's gone. From what I understand, I wasn't there anymore. So I know what the Netflix people feel like. Now, we couldn't say anything in the early 2000s because you weren't allowed to. Or you could, but it wasn't going to go anywhere. I mean, no one really cared what anyone thought. Now, on the other hand, the thing is, it's business. So they paid Dave Chappelle $23.8 million or whatever to fulfill a contract, and he did. And they didn't say what he had to talk about or not, and they knew what he talks about. And they also have a lot of diverse program on Netflix, programming, like a ton. They also have like a lot of representation on there. They have a lot of programs a lot of people won't watch probably because they're offended by that representation. So it's kind of like you can't have it both ways. They're trying to. But I mean, as a person like who's offended by what he's saying, but then maybe I support someone else who's saying something to offend, because I even thought about it just now. Like, I said Rush Limbaugh's a piece of shit. Well, someone's probably listening, or you might even think he's not.
I don't know who he is. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But you know what I mean? I said that not thinking about the fact that could alienate someone.
Yeah.
But, and I have to think about stuff like that. And I do think about it. Maybe that's the whole thing about the woke. Like, yeah, it's annoying. You can't say what you want. But I don't need to say that to make it my point. But like, the thing is, and sorry, this is like super long now.
It's okay. I got a question for you when you're.
But I just feel like you can't you can't say that you have a right to say anything and you have a right to have space and have space held for you, but then not say someone else doesn't just because you don't like what they said. I think what people are missing is that you don't have to watch Dave's special if you don't want to.
Yeah.
And probably more than likely, a lot of these people weren't going to anyway because they don't like him anyway. I mean, I don't watch every comedian. I don't watch really nasty stuff. I don't like it. I might be very blue in my personal life and what I say. I don't always like blue comedy. But I think that like the conversation then can be to educate and to say, okay, we have this programming, but we also have this. And yeah, and maybe even have a conversation with him, but instead the conversation just became take it off the air, blah, blah, blah. And that wasn't a reasonable solution.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I see both sides of it. I'm just annoyed because I'm annoyed about how many people say they can't say anything anymore. The truth is you can say whatever you want. It's just some people are going to talk back now.
Yeah.
And if you can't handle that, then
yeah,
sorry, babe, you know?
So where do you, I'm curious about your view on, I'm starting to get a picture of who you are as like a person and comedian.
Oh, God.
I'm curious, where's the line for you? Like where does comedy, where is it no longer a joke and now we've got a fucking problem? Where is that?
Well,
where I'm curious as to, and maybe it's a squiggly line. Maybe for,
yeah, I mean,
maybe it moves and stuff, but I'm curious what your view is on that.
Look, in my personal life, I've said a lot of things that if someone was recording me constantly, yeah, I'd definitely be canceled or something, I'm sure.
Yeah, quote unquote canceled,
you know? Yeah. For me personally, a lot of it's a gut check if I feel good about having said it or saying it or not. So I made this one joke about my family. And it didn't get that many laughs. And it was really derogatory about a certain person. And I realized it just wasn't funny because it was just hurtful. And then it was almost like, well, that's something that needs to be said in therapy, maybe, and not on a stage.
Yeah.
I won't use the N-word.
Yeah.
No, but that's not that obvious, Kyle. That's the thing, because a lot of people think they have the right to use it because I have the right to say whatever I want.
Yeah, I think that's one. That's a line.
I mean, I have no reason to use it anyway. I'm not going to do racist jokes.
Right.
I think for me, yeah, it's a gut check, and my name's Rabiah Coon. I mean, my last name.
It's an unfortunate last name, I gotta say.
Right. It's a racial slur, and so what do I do with it? Well, I say, my name's unique because it's both ethnic and racist.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I would introduce myself. I would introduce myself and then duck. Are there any black people?
I do.
Okay, there are no black people here. Cool.
I'll play to it.
Yeah.
I'll play to it and I'll see, and people are uncomfortable with it. And it's an uncomfortable joke sometimes, and it hasn't always gone over well.
Yeah.
And I have to understand that though I know my intent with it is to really make fun of myself and to acknowledge the elephant in the room, that someone could still be offended that I'm even saying the word. And I can't tell them, well, you shouldn't feel how you feel. That's how they feel.
Yeah.
And so what do I think is too far for other people? I don't know. I mean, I guess whatever they can't defend.
Yeah.
And if your only defense is, well, I can say whatever I want, I don't think you put much thought into it.
Yeah, that's not a very good. Honestly, for me, it comes down to how you act, like how you act as a person, like elsewhere.
Right.
Somebody like Tom Segura, or I'll just use Tom Segura.
Yeah.
Somebody like him, or even Dave. So Tom could tell a joke that is like tongue in cheek, like a stereotype against black people or something like that. But like he can do that because I know, and the audience knows. Everyone knows. Like we know you're not racist. You are. This is clearly a like. Okay, yeah, cool, awesome, cool, awesome. You know, it's like a. It's he's being like coy, you know, or whatever.
Yeah,
like it's clearly a joke. It's when it's like when you're not sure if that was supposed to be a joke. You're like, okay, like you could tell the exact same joke. Like another person could tell the exact same joke, and this is what's fucked up about this. Someone else can tell that exact same joke, but because you know something about that person or like you know them, you're like, I don't know if you're allowed to say that, bud. Like, you know, and that's what's so weird about this stuff is it's not very black and white.
No, it's
extremely gray. I mean, the whole thing is gray. You might have a black line over here and a white line over here, but in between, I mean, it's nothing but just yeah, and that's what I don't think a lot of people can wrap their heads around that.
Yeah, and I think the listening part's missing. And certainly for me, I'm not going to say I don't overreact or react without all the information or something. I do. And so I'm not proud of that. It's just a fact. But like, I think too, if you say something and that you really hurt someone, and if your intention was to make everyone laugh and you didn't, you actually hurt people. Yeah. That's a good indication you're not very funny. And you can't say, oh, they're just not my audience. And like, if I had been at a KKK meeting or rally, I guess, then it would have been, would have gone over funny there. But you guys are just too sensitive.
I like how I became the resident expert for a second there, like a KKK meeting or what is it, a rally? Okay, cool, rally.
I was just asking the air, but like, well, I don't want to offend them and call it a meeting.
No. Just certainly don't want to do that.
But like, you know, then it's like, well, I don't know.
No, I totally understand what you're saying there. If you hurt, like if you say something and the entire room is like, boo, and you're like, ah, shit. Okay. I mean, I've heard as a comedian, you should stand your ground and like hold the fucking stage down and don't give into that. But maybe, you know, consider maybe swapping that joke out for the future.
Yeah. And it's what you as a person wants to do. I mean,
do some soul searching.
Me as a person, sometimes I don't think I'm even built for it, right? Because it's like, I think I have very strong views on I just know how I've evolved. I know where I grew up. I know the home I grew up in. I know how I've evolved and my viewpoints evolved over time. And I know that things I used to say, I wouldn't say now, you know? And it doesn't mean they were right back then. And now they're wrong. They were not right. But my knowledge or my understanding of things was different. And so I feel like we need to give people that space. And I think people can say whatever they want, but just don't, if you're not going to get if I don't laugh at your rape joke, those are jokes I don't think are funny. Right. Yeah. If I don't laugh at your rape joke, because it reminds me of a time that I was in a position where I was scared of that happening to me. Well, don't come for me. Yeah. You know, like maybe your experience with rape, sir, was a positive one, but there are a lot of people it hasn't been. Yeah. And so don't expect everyone to laugh at it.
Yeah. Those are always ones. And the first person to come to mind is, actually the first person to come to mind was Jeselnik, but now it's Tosh. Like he popped up and I was like, I mean, I can remember before I was as quote unquote woke as I am, I'm kind of in the middle, leaning left. Like I'm kind of almost dead set in the middle, but I've got a foot towards the left is kind of where I've landed, over the past, this like where I've been evolving my brain the past few years. But yeah, those kind of jokes are the ones that even before all that, listening to it, you're just like, ooh, I mean, like I see what you were trying to do there, but whew, that was a little dark. You know? The funny,
and so sorry, like I know this got really long, and I'm sorry.
No,
about
it's okay.
I appreciate that.
We're only at 49 minutes right now.
No, but I feel like that whole thing was very long and some people might be annoyed by it. But I just think that it's just the listening part. And, you know, and just what you're comfortable with. Those are the two things I look at.
Yeah. I listen to, so a lot of the podcasts I listen to are, comedians who just do podcasts. And, I'm not a stand-up comedian, and I wouldn't even venture to say that I'm a huge fan because I haven't gone back and watched, a lot of like classic stuff or whatever. I feel like I'm a fan, but I'm not like a super fan. But I could see what they were talking about. And as comedians, this particular group of comedians that I watch their podcasts, there was like seemed like there was like a genuine fear that they, like, comedy was going to get snuffed out because you couldn't, there were so many things. It's like shit that Richard Pryor would say, like, is still fucked up today. It was fucked up back then. That's the point. Yeah. Like, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable and laugh. And like, some of the stuff drives you to laughter through uncomfortableness, know, but that's still like, come on, you know what I'm saying? You know what, see, you know what I'm saying? That kind of,
what's funny, Kyle's like, to me, because I know I was talking to a friend about this, how like people go, oh, well, if they saw Richard Pryor now, if they saw Eddie Murphy now, you know what? We've seen him now. Those guys, they're not the same person. We've seen these guys, but they were back then. So the fact that you now are trying to say the same things that these guys were saying in the 70s and 80s, and you're thinking, you saying it now as a person who lives in modern times, who has walked through the world during these times, and you think that you should repeat what they said and then get it the same reaction, that's your problem. Because I'll still laugh at Eddie Murphy's Raw. It's genius. And Richard Pryor, so I have multiple sclerosis. Richard Pryor had that. Of all the people, now more people are saying they have it, or not saying, but they have it. More people are coming out with it. But of the people I had to look at about 20 years ago when I was diagnosed, it was like Richard Pryor, Annette Funicello. That was about it. You know who I was going for? Richard Pryor. So I watched a lot of his stuff just because there was some connection to like someone, and that's silly, but that was true. And I joke a little bit like, oh, one reason I do comedy is that's Richard Pryor's treatment plan, right?
Yeah.
Richard Pryor pushed the boundaries of that time. But if you're using his same stuff to push the boundaries of this time, you're lacking some kind of creativity.
Right.
I
agree with you there. Did I say...
No. I'm just saying,
okay.
I'm agreeing with you, and I'm kind of adding on to it. Like, because there's this whole thing that these people are upset now. And, oh, well, if you saw this guy, well, yeah, we've seen those guys and they were funny.
Right.
And they were pushing the envelope, and Carlin,
Yeah.
But it's almost like a lot of these guys need to act like women now, and they need to work really hard to be funny, because that's what women have had to do the entire time. Because when a woman goes on stage, people assume she's not funny. Yeah. And a lot of men joke about how women aren't funny. So maybe now the jokes that, old white men aren't funny. So they have to toughen up.
I find that ridiculous. Like the fact that there are guys out there, like like how insecure do you have to be? That you're out there joking about how women can't be funny, or like like just female comedians just in general aren't a thing. Like,
well, like I was on this one gig, I was super stoked about it, right? Like this comedian booked me in San Diego, and I was so stoked. And it was me, and I was the only woman on the bill. So that was obviously like the token, which is fine though. You know what? Then if that's what needs to be done, where the guys think I have to have a woman on the bill or people will complain, and a woman gets a job, cool. I was so stoked about the set until he announced me as, oh, and we had to put a woman on the bill, so here's Rabiah.
Damn.
What?
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. I'm not here because I'm funny.
Wow.
That sucks. And a lot of women have.
Did you talk to him?
No, I just had to go. I said something like, I probably have it recorded somewhere, but I said, oh, I thought you had me on here because you needed an actual comic to show up.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Because I had to do my set, right? I had to do my set. I couldn't just be hurt.
Yeah.
And and I know women who have been, harassed and that kind of thing, women who get booked because the booker thinks that they're going to get laid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so insulting. It's so insulting. And then, being the only woman and then being announced in some way or being in the advertisement, and a woman. And it's just like,
Yeah.
No,
I get it. Especially if you know you're funny and like fuck you, dude. You didn't have to. I know I'm funny. You didn't have to do that. Like, that's fucked up. Like, even if it was just a joke, it's still like, bro, I'm funny. Now they're not going to think I'm funny. Right. Like, you're setting me up to fail here. Like, you're priming the crowd in the wrong direction. Yeah. Yeah, that's fucked up. I might have just left. Like, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah, it's rude. So it is complex, though, the whole issue. And I'm not an expert in any of it, but other than the woman part, I guess, to an extent, because I haven't been doing it that long. But it's just, it's hard. And it's such a hot thing right now. I mean, there's a whole debate just now on Facebook when I was before this looking at, because someone had everyone just complaining, right? And it's like, I don't know. I don't wish it'd stop. I wish the conversation would be more productive. But I can't even say I'm someone who moves them along to be productive either, sometimes, which is unfortunate.
Well, this has been an enlightening conversation. Very much so. This was nice. This was very, this is different.
It is nice.
Yeah.
But it is nice. I just felt like it went off the rails.
No,
if you're fine, then I'm fine.
Those are great. Yeah. Look, we don't edit anything here. It's small stuff podcast, small stuff media. We don't edit a thing. It's going in just like it is. Yeah, that was great. And that's a nice long YouTube clip right there. Brighton will go in and chop it up, make it interesting. No, but that was awesome. I appreciate you coming on. And taking the time. And I told you, I've been to the UK and all that area, that little area of the planet. Crystal is not, and eventually we're gonna get over there. So if you're still there, I'll hit you up. I'd like to come to a show or something. That'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, it's great here. I love it. I like the people. I've been really happy in London so far.
Yeah. Is there like a time limit? Like, are you just there until?
I have a visa, so
forgot that was the thing.
I had to get a new visa for my new job, so like 2024 is the end date on the visa. I don't really know. I'll see. I mean, there's a couple things that would probably keep me here, and then a lot of things that would bring me back. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find you, Rabiah?
Sure. Yeah. So, so my name is Rabiah. So it's Rabiah Comedy. I'm on all the channels. I don't do that much comedy content. I need to do more. And then I have a podcast called More Than Work Podcast, which you'll be on, Kyle, as well. And so that's More Than Work Pod. And that's on all the channels. And then I have a website, rabiahsaid.com. And there's morethanworkpod.com, which redirects you there. So pretty easy to find, though. I'm pretty searchable with my name.
Yeah. All right.
One of those names.
Well, whoa, do I have pit stains? I sure do. Look at that. Look at that.
Hey, that's like me when I get off a stage. If I had been performing just now, forget it. I sweat so much from that.
I sweat a lot when I'm like shooting. Like if I'm shooting anything. It doesn't matter what it is or how cold or hot it is outside. I'm soaked by the time we're done.
Yeah, it's so funny. I know.
Yeah. But all right. Well, guys, thanks for hanging in for about an hour. Follow Small Stuff Podcast on Instagram. Follow Small Stuff Media on Instagram. Just follow Small Stuff Media, and you'll see all the other shows that we do. We're going to have, by the time January gets here, we will hopefully have 4 podcasts running out of Small Stuff Media. So be on the lookout for all of that. Exciting things. Check out Rabiah's podcast, More Than Work. Like she said, yours truly is going to be on an episode soon, either before or after this episode airs. I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
But go check that out. Check out the episode I'm on, and also peruse through the other episodes in the catalog on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the places, all the things. think that's it. Toodaloo.